Hey, welcome back to the exciting show of YOML, Year of Magical Learning. Today I'm in a different scene. I'm actually on vacations in Destin, Florida. And so we're joining you from almost East Coast, like at the timeline divider. So I'm still in Central, but it feels like Eastern. So, but today we're talking about the laws, and there's a lot of laws we either know or we don't know. Some are visible, some are tangible. So today I'll let Chris introduce the book, and we continue on with our discussion.
Yeah. So I think everybody may have read this one on this call today. Snow, did you read 48 Laws of Power?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. And True, I think you did too, right?
Yes, I did.
Okay, awesome. Well, this will be a fun conversation then, because we all three have read this one, so you guys can share your own reflections on it as well after I share mine. So, Snow, you want to introduce the book, kind of what it's about?
Sure. Well, from my recollection, it's about. Well, my overall reflection is he looks at the lens of the world as a zero-sum game. And if it's a zero-sum game, how are you going to rise to the top? So a lot of times he ends up giving stories and situations of people, how they used certain laws and certain tactics, like a lot of times social skills to rise to the top, or they use certain skills and like, because they didn't follow rules, they fell and weren't able to be so great. But it was really because it was like almost looking at in the context of laws of power help you get up in, let's say, a realm that's a zero-sum game. But I think it's an interesting like difference to look at it since then say like, hey, let's not look at things as like a zero-sum game. But one thing he always constantly looks at is like sort of in a court, if like, let's say there's someone in power, how do you end up like, like the first law I think is,
it's on the book. It's on the book cover here.
Never outshine your master.
Never outshine the master.
Never outshine the master. So anyway, it's an interesting book, and I think a lot of the psychology is true. And anyway, I want to just hear what we all have to say about it.
Yeah, I think that's a good synopsis. In general, I mean, I totally agree. That's kind of how I felt when I read this book as well. It's actually this book. If you think of like the polarity of How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie and like 48 Laws of Power, I feel like they're both based on the same principles of, listening to people, understanding human nature, understanding psychology and interacting with people. But one of them is kind of used for good, of winning friends and influencing people. The other one is also to win as well, but it's more to like total domination.
It's still win friends, influence people. It just
right.
Some people have a different. Well, it's all. I think the laws are the same from the both books perspectives. It's just that how you say it, how you present it.
Right, exactly. No, I mean it can be used for good or it can be used for bad. Like that's all things in this world, right? So we were just talking about that with the Packin app, that we were talking about. It could be used for good, could be used for bad, and in my personal opinion, like the 48 Laws of Power, the reflection title I wrote on this one is I only need to follow one law to feel powerful every day, and I'll explain what I mean by that. But I started off this reflection by saying consume, it does have a powerful effect on your thoughts and how you interact with the world. We talked about it in a reflection in the past, but thoughts really do become things. When I was reading this book, I mean, I don't know if you guys had the same thought or feeling, but like, I felt disgusting. Like, I mean, I felt gross. I felt like icky. I felt like a bad human being, like reading this book. I felt like I don't want to know this stuff and I don't want to learn this stuff. And I felt bad reading the book. Did you guys feel that at all?
No.
In general?
No, it's just you.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I felt I could physically feel the disposition in me changing it took me about 2 weeks to finish this book. And it was like, I mean, I was just like, I felt just angry at the end of it. I was like, man, like we suck, juxtapose that to like reading a Humankind book. After I read that one, I was like, man, humans are pretty awesome. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, we're good. It's a hopeful history, it's we're innately good, and then like reading 48 Laws of Power, you're like, man, we just suck, Anyway, like it really did viscerally, come out of me feeling that way. And like as we just talked about at its core, this book takes a deep dive into how humans interact, connect, and build relationships and influence one another, and you can do it for good stuff or you can do it for bad stuff. So so for me, what this book made me think about as I kept going on with writing this reflection the morning I was writing this one, is how do you kind of through all the noise of, there's a lot of people that are going to tell you, hey, use this for good, like in How to Win Friends and Influence People, use this for bad, like in 48 Laws of Power, use it for whatever. But like, we've talked about this so many different times about hearing outside influence voices and having that shape your outlook on things and how you interact with the world. And for us in this whole entire journey, this has been about the exact opposite of that, of kind of blocking out the noise. And that's why I wrote the reflection title. I only really need like one law to follow every single day. That's following my values personally. Like, I mean, I don't care what's going on. Like, I don't care if you put me in a situation where, I'm in a court or whatever, like I'm going to always do what I'm going to consult my guide, my guidance, my values, my purpose, my mission, whatever it may be. And if that tells me to go do that, then that's what I'm going to follow. I just don't care about trying to, figure out, like, that's one of the things about this book. There's so many scenarios of like, how do you do this or do that when somebody does this? How do you play this game? Yada yada yada. Like, it's just too much for me to focus on. So like, I'm just like, even the 48 laws is just too much for me. So I'm like, I'm just gonna do one thing every single day that I can do, that I know that I can control, and I will feel good about the outcome, no matter what the hell everybody else does around me. And that's following my values every single day. So love to get your guys' thoughts on that. Just in general, like, the question I posed at the end of this was, how do you shield yourself from outside influencers and stay true to yourself? But love to get your thoughts on the book in general, like, in the overall concepts I was, trying to share there.
I think, sure, if you don't mind, I feel like dipping into this one first.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think seriously, it definitely just shows one thing your conversation made me think of, is how malleable I am and how malleable we all are about what we consume, and how we can end up kind of becoming like that. I mean, our brains are wired to sort of be able to mimic ideas and virtues, and like you say, you just felt different. It's very different than who you usually are, and yet I think the book is excellent to read, to see how other people can try to pull one over on you.
For sure.
I remember I read a section to my class about how to start a cult, because I didn't want them to fall into a cult trap. It's important in this world to understand all the psychology behind, because a lot of people are power hungry, and I think I was always really naive to that. And this book definitely opened my eyes to what sometimes other people are up to. And then I think other books I've been reading lately have just also just shown that a lot of people are hurt, and through that hurt and pain, they try to like accumulate power, and they use these tools, and these tactics do work, and like you said, they can be used for good or they can be used for evil. So I don't think that's like the book has to make you feel icky. I think, just like any of the laws can be used for good or evil. But I do remember really liking the book. And I think that, I think in terms of education, I think it's really important to understand human psychology. So I think it was a good book about understanding human psychology, and a neat dive into history as well, to look at some figures throughout the course of humanity.
No, I think that's interesting. I mean, I think all your points and comments are totally valid and true. I mean, I don't disagree with anything you said. There's so many noise. Like, there's so much noise of all these. There's 48 rules, like, and I'm sure there's 5,000 other ones. Like, I can't remember that shit. Like, how do you remember like when to apply, when, where? Like, I mean, like, this is like sales 101. This is my job, right? Like, how to win friends and influence people, and like, I can't remember all the things that what to say, when to say. Like Chris Voss's book, Never Split the Difference. Yeah, that guy's had 10,000 hours of negotiating with hostages to understand exactly the subtle nuances of when to do what, when, I mean, like, I don't have this. And like, just by reading this book, there's just no way that I will ever know what to do, when to do it, and do it right, unless I play this game forever. So like
Yeah.
for me, it just makes it easy just to condense it down to like, what can I always do? Like, because I agree with you, people are gonna do this stuff, but like, I mean, at the end of the day, who cares? Like, I mean, like, it's unless it kills me. I mean,
Yeah, well, it's good to, I think, to be able to call out people with what they're doing so you can explain the situation to others. But you're right. I mean, I don't think like someone's like, oh, we're gonna do these 48 laws. Like they sort of like end up their character. It kind of can be maybe like one or two can be like some part of their character, and it might be to like a detriment. And sometimes it's like how like we all have qualities that end up sometimes being good, but then sometimes they end up like getting us in harm's way as well.
Sure.
So, Tria, what do you think?
So I'll tell you what I think. I'm gonna answer the questions, Chris. How do you shield yourself from outside influence and stay true to yourself? And I think that for me is what I think is this book is great from that perspective. In order for you to stay true to yourself, you have to know how to avoid being in a situation where people can manipulate you. Because the thing is, the book is outlining a lot of these like courtesans where they are playing the power game, right? And if you sucked into the power game and you don't know it, you can't avoid it. When you can't avoid it, how it's going to divert your attention from the thing that you should be doing, from your virtues and your value that you should be living. So for me, when I read the book, I'm not putting myself into the first person say, okay, I'm going to use this power. I'm not saying I'm going to be trying to be this person to use the law to get up to the top and to follow these guys. I'm reading from a third person perspective. Oh, okay, this is what they did in this century, and this is what I did in that scenario, in that situation. And for me, I'm looking from an outsider perspective. So I don't feel icky up because I never even crossed my mind that I'm going to use these things to kind of get what I want. I say I want to know that, hey, I should avoid these people. I should avoid, getting to a situation where people are trying to manipulate me so I can stop it. Because a lot of times, we just don't know. I mean, we look at ourselves, like for me, it's like, we were talking about the Montessori workplace, right? The thing is, I wish I knew. I wish I had been part of the Montessori education growing up, because I went into my midlife crisis, and I regret not having these kind of things because I didn't know. The options I have. So for me, it's in order to be true to myself and to shield myself from outside influence, I have to know what I can do, and I have to know how to stop if somebody is trying to assert themselves into into what I need to do. For example, the people at work, right? They want you to work, until you die. Work from morning, from dawn to dusk, right? And never see your kids. And for me, I rebel against it because I knew that wasn't correct. So I rebel against. If I didn't know, I did. For my life when I was little, until about 10 years old, I was a bad kid. I mean, I was a rebellious kid. And then from 10 until I was like 20, I was a perfect kid. I mean, perfect grades. Like I have like perfect attendance from 6th grade to 12th grade. Never miss a day, right? And for me, is I actually regret having to adhere so darn good to that particular, I guess, dogma or standard, just because to me that isn't helping me, because I didn't know. I didn't know. But if I knew, I wouldn't have done that. I would have done something more, like I would be more like, it's okay that you can think for yourself. Like for my culture, it's like you're not supposed to think for yourself. You're supposed to think for others. You're supposed to not inconvenience anybody. So a lot of times when I grow up, I hesitate to ask questions because the coaches tells me that, hey, I should not inconvenience anyone. Why am I so? Who am I to inconvenience and ask somebody, hey, can you tell me how to get there, or how to do this, or can you show me how you did that, or can you show me the recipe, or this and that, right? That to me is like I adhere to some dogma so perfectly because I didn't know, and that held me back. And so for me, this book is yes, it's actually icky if you actually trying to put yourself into the first person. But if you are from a third person perspective, I think it's a good book to know to kind of have, like, your kind of like know how versus having like, hey, I'm going to implement and utilize it for my own gains. So like I said, you have the options. You can use it for good or you use it for bad, but when the option is at your disposal, you can choose. And to me,
Well,
that's better than not having to say, hey, I'm ignorant to it.
I was going to say, sometimes, ignorance kind of is bliss, like, I mean, like, if you don't know you're being manipulated,
No, the
like,
thing is, to me, when we talk about this, you wanna. We're talking about having, like, yes, in the beginning, in the first phase, ignorance is bliss, but bliss comes with its disadvantages. And then you go to the
yeah,
second part of the trilogy, where everything is becomes like when you know too much, right? When you know enough without ability to do anything. Like in the beginning, you know nothing, right? So when it hurts you, you didn't know it hurts or didn't hurt so bad. It still hurts, but it didn't hurt as much. But then you
right,
know something, right? You know enough, but you can't do anything about it. Then that's hurt the worst because it hurt the longest because you knew of advance and you suffer through it. And then you get to the second part of the last part of the trilogy where you have knowledge. Now you have the options and the ability to act on it. That is when you become better than the first two. So to me, you go like this and then you dip and then you can go up, right? And so
yeah,
you have to get past the first two phases. Yes, the first two phases is better than the second because yeah, if you suddenly get yourself into trouble, but it's only for a short period of time because you didn't anticipate anything. Your brain wasn't worrying you. You're not stressing out until that thing happened, but it still happened. Like whether you shoot yourself in the foot or you put a firecracker in your mouth and yeah, you know what I mean.
yeah. Well,
So yes, ignorance is bliss, but it's not that cracked up to be, in my opinion.
that's fair. I will say this, there's one huge important thing that I think with like both How to Win Friends and Influence People and 48 Laws of Power, or books like that. It's outcome based. Like it's about winning. Like, and that's kind of what I don't really care. Like, I mean, like I if you care that much about winning, you're, like, I mean,
I
it
agree.
even says
It's
in the title, How
basically
to
the
Win
book.
Friends and Influence People.
The
Like,
book is
that's not what I'm
basically
here
put you
for.
in the competition.
Right,
The
exactly.
both book, they say, hey, in order for you to influence somebody, you're basically inside of a game with among other people. But
Well, but wait a minute, we're all happy, healthy, adjusted people in general. Like, we're all here by choice to have a great conversation because this aligns to what we care about, right? Nobody's manipulating anybody else to have this conversation. You might say you are, and if you are trying to do that for some other reason, I don't know that I really care, because like this is a part of something that matters to me, and it's going to matter to me whether you're manipulating me or not. So like that's my decision to come into this conversation, and that's why that's why we all enjoy it, right? Like, we all come into this knowing that we're doing something that aligns to what we care about, versus like trying to go, well, I'm trying to manipulate this whole scenario to get like a lot of followers to grow some money together, so then I can go do it, like, the whole big strategy or whatever. Like, when you're trying to play the game, like, I don't know, I just feel like you're never going to win come based versus just enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah, Susan, I think you're right. I mean, it is for people like trying to play a game, and I think what was the question? I can't quite read the print there. What was the question?
How do you shield yourself from outside influencers and stay true to yourself?
Yeah, well, I think one thing. I mean, I think just in terms of like reading and education and teaching yourself and expanding your knowledge is great, because humans have stayed pretty much the same. So we have these authors, most of them older than us, who we read, and so their take on how they've seen life play out is probably going to be somewhat similar. Sure, it's going to be different as like technology advances and everything and other things advances, but I guess how I stay kind of true to myself is, I think one thing I've gotten better at is making sure I'm reading, because I can get highly influenced by what I read. So making sure I read like peer-reviewed stuff from people, either myself or people who I admire, recommend.
Right.
Not going off and reading like some rabbit hole things, because I think we are pretty highly influenced by what we take in, and because things can in our society become so polarized, like a person, it's just as easy to read the Wall Street Journal as it is to read like a post from a bigot.
Right.
You
That's a good
know,
call. Yeah.
and in the human brain, sure, we can think we know the difference, but like when we're taking information in, we really don't know the difference that much, you know. So I think that's important for myself. Yeah.
No, I agree. So it's kind of like you're saying, like a balanced educational approach, I guess, just to kind of see the, you know, the bigger picture in general, but a balanced approach from people that you can trust, you know.
But also whether like reading about what the Republicans think, but also reading about what the, you know, Democrats think, you know. I think just that's being peer reviewed, but also reading both sides of the story.
I like it.
Yeah, I think one of my values is like individualism.
So how? Well, there you go. Run with that one in terms of how would you be an individual like in these ancient courts? You know what I mean? Like how would you do that and still play this game? Like, or would you play the game? I guess here's the question: would you play the game? Like, you know, or do you want to play the game?
Well, I think me playing the game is shedding light on consciousness and mindfulness about what's going on in our surroundings. But it's like that's how I try to educate our students. Like, what's really going on here? Why the fuck are you guys here? You know,
your principal is walking by and they're like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
You know. I was literally just writing about this morning because I finished your Beta per Christus book or whatever, the aphorisms or whatever.
Yes.
And the one that I was writing about this morning was that I really enjoyed. Was the stuff that I learned on my own is the stuff that I always remember. And I was thinking about that Econ 368 class. And like the thought that I was like, I was playing a game and I was with myself this morning when I was writing this. I was like, 30 seconds, you had a, you know, pretend gun to your head. Like what's something you absolutely remember that you still use to this day that you learned in school, K through college, like you know, kindergarten through college. Name one thing. You got 30 seconds, go.
Honestly, I think like mindfulness and self-reflection.
You learned that in school?
Yes, through journaling.
Oh, but you self-learned it.
Well, no, but like we had to write for like 10 minutes every day in English class at the start of class.
I love it. That's great. Well, that's really cool. You did that in grade school or high school or college?
Like 11th grade.
That's awesome. Well, good for that teacher for teaching you to do that, because I agree. That's awesome. True. What do you got?
I learned how to smoke. I learned how to make my own smoke. I learned on my own. I just saw people smoke with a little thing, and I just basically go and grab some corn hair from the cornfield and wrap it up in some paper and then light it up and smoke it. And that's the thing I remember.
So you guys yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, basically is I learned like things like that, you know, it's very vivid in my memory, and it basically tells me that I'm very creative in what I want. If I want something, I'm gonna figure out how to make it, whether it's, you know, close enough or it mimics the same smoke. It's good.
I love it. The reason I was bringing this idea up was the one thing that I can remember from K through college, the only thing that I can remember was Econ 368, and the first thing that came to mind was 2 + 2 = 4, or doesn't equal 4. And it was funny that I remember that, because that was actually the one class that if you asked me at the time, I think I told you, Snow, I think we lived together at that time. I was like, this is like I don't know if I told you this or shared these thoughts, but I was like, this is the dumbest class that I've ever been in my life, you know, because you spend your whole entire life going like, here's your curriculum. This is what we're going to do. This is the assignments we're going to learn today. These are you know, you take your notes, you take your tests to prove that you learned whatever you did, you get your grade, and you move on toward whatever outcome it is. Like, this class had none of that. It was, here's a hypothetical topic. Here, read something and come prepared tomorrow to share your thoughts of, you know, and engage. It was about engaging, and it was about, you know, sharing with your classmates and discussing something. And I was like, this class sucks. But now that I look back on it, I'm like, man, that was like the only class that I remember, because that was the only time that I actually had to apply my own knowledge and my own thought to any course ever. Yeah. Like, you know, and in the
your
history
own
of my,
thoughts. Yeah, got to be a part of the course.
Right. That was the only time ever that in my entire education. So, and that was like, but the funny thing is like, that's the only thing I remember really, but like, I was comparing that to this year magical learning journey of all being self-learned adventure this morning. And I was like, man, like I could rattle off 50 things in the past couple of years that I've learned and applied to my life, because it's all been self-learned. Anyway, I the reason why I'm bringing this all up as it relates to this topic is like, it's I don't know. I don't care what other people are doing. Like, I guess at the end of the day, like, I mean, it's just not, someone always has an agenda, and I just don't care anymore. I only care about my own agenda,
Yeah.
So go back to the question you asked Snow earlier. If you're in the 18th century and you're in a court, do you play the game? You're gonna have to play the game. You're gonna have to. The thing is, for me, it's like the option you have is either you are not inside the court, or you're inside the court and you have to play the game. You cannot not play the game. It's not possible, right? So you have to remove yourself from, because if you don't play the game, basically they're gonna get rid of you.
Yeah, it's true.
So in order for you to
depends if you have
survive and
help.
do your own thing, you're gonna have to say, I'm not in the court. I'm in the country somewhere. I'm living my own life. I'm chopping my own wood. I'm chopping on my own saw. That's my thing. Is that yes, you can't say, well, I don't care what other people think or do. Yeah, you do, because they're going to get in your way of you doing what you want to do.
What if the court was founded on a bunch of people that just wanted to?
That's not reality. That's
well, you could have done that. Some king could have walked in and changed the whole tone. Like they chose they're the ones that made the rules for the game.
And that's what, hence the law, hence the book. I mean, he's not creating a law. He's saying, this is what I see. This is what I observe, right? If you're in this situation, you're going to have to deal with it this way. And this is how people are going to try to deal with you. So either you want to play the game or you don't. If you don't, right, what's going to happen to you?
Well, then
they're going to use you as the a lot of people, like in those days, right? They are looking for a person to pin the scapegoat on, so they can get out. Basically, they can use you to take the guillotine for them. And like I say, you say, well, I don't care. Well, you are in your guillotine. You're gonna get chopped off your head off, and you're the one that's not living your core values, because they use you, because you let them use you. And to me, that's why I think this book, and that book is not saying, hey, I created this law. This book says, this is the law I observed. This is what people have done. And so, yes, I think we have to be mindful of
book.
where
I don't think that these scenarios didn't happen.
And it happened, and that's our human history. It's not like we choose to have and magic wand, and we just flick the wand, and the king decides to hey, no more laws, no more games, no more this.
To be fair, there's a reason why there's no monarchs around anymore. Because apparently the game that they were playing wasn't good enough. Like, and people were sick and tired. People wanted to be Snow's individualism. Like, and they I mean, you can it just
changed the way you call it. It's the same. It's still the same. It's no different. You look at China, you look at all the third world country. There's not a single person that say, oh, I'm the king, but they control everything. Same thing. Yeah. Even in the United States, I mean, you were talking about democracy. This is the extreme of these the rules of a monarch, but you still have the same. The government up on top is deciding, okay, yes, I represent the people, but I have my own agenda. Can I align some of these objectives with the agenda that I have? And for the most part, the people who run for government offices, it's not because they really want to make changes for the good of the nations alone. They say, well, maybe I make some good of the nation, but I'm going to have to make law to help my friends or my company out first. That's first and foremost my priority. And then maybe along the way, I can make a world a better place or the country a better place. Yeah, but that's still a second priority to these politicians. I mean, even if they are doing the good deeds they promise they will do when elected office. And so to me, it's just a different name.
So that's a lot. That's a whole other conversation, guys. It's past my bedtime here. I gotta get going, so I'm gonna sign off. But you guys can keep talking here.
Awesome. All right, so all right, well, yeah.
You guys.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. It's a pretty deep it's a pretty deep conversation in general. And it's not easy, but I mean, for me, I don't know. I guess I mean, I have to always keep going back to like it's. I mean, I just can't. I don't want to play the game anymore. Like, I mean, the
You
only
don't
game I
have
want
to
to
play
play
the
is what
game. You
makes me
don't have
feel
to play the
good.
game.
Yeah.
That's my point is you know when you know you have options, right? Because if you in the 18th century, you have the option. The only option you have is you stay away from the court. Then you don't have to play the game. But if you somehow get thrust into the court and the king said, hey, I want you to do this, and you say no, what happens to you? What happens to you if you say no? No, I don't play the game. I do my own thing. I don't need no king. What happened to you? You
Well, I
gonna
didn't say
you gonna get executed.
I didn't say you have to disregard society's rules. Like, I mean, like you still have to play within the framework of the game, but you can still play your own game within
That's
the
playing
game.
the game. That's like within the 48 laws. There's a law you
I
playing in
mean,
there. Like you playing
okay,
it. Oh, what I mean? You're talking
so
about
to be
not
fair,
outshining the master, for example, right? You're not outshining the king. Don't be smarter than the king, because otherwise you will get killed. Well, imagine if you're a great, great
I don't
general or
disagree.
a great, great something or whatever, you great, great salesman. If you outshine the king, you're dead. I mean, that's one of the law. First law, don't outshine your master.
Look, I don't
Imagine
I don't
Michelangelo, right?
disagree.
Michelangelo and all these artists that has like very very famous man. They say, well, I paint this Sistine Chapel from the for the Pope. Where well, they say, hey, the Pope give me inspiration. You are the source of these masterpiece. It's not me. I'm just a vessel. That's how he's able to survive. Otherwise, you think Michelangelo is going to survive until this day? No. Leonardo da Vinci, the same way. They are very smart at what they do because they know how to play the game. And they did play the game. They had to play the game. You can't say, well, I just come to me naturally and I paint this beautiful Sistine Chapel or whatever. And the Pope has nothing to do with it. No, you got to give credit to the king because you cannot outshine the master. Law number one. Same thing,
Well,
right?
okay, so
You are doing the same thing right now at Salesforce.
I
You
was
get
about ready to say that. I'm not. I was
so
about ready
you're
to
playing
say,
it now, and so you're telling me that you're not, right? So the
but
thing
we'll
is,
try.
if you
Wait, hang on, pause. So, but you're right there, like
of
100%
course,
correct. But the truth is we're trying to build our own game, right? Like, so fine, build your own game is the answer then. Like,
right?
build your
You
own game
have to
based around
know
your own
what not
rules.
to build. You
Right.
have to know what
Yeah,
not to build, and that's why I say yes.
that's true.
You have to know what people are doing and how people think, so that you can control and have the option of controlling your own destiny. Because if you're building a new ecosystem, but you fall into the same trap because you're influenced by other people without knowing that you are building into the same flaw and the same laws that they have been repeated in history. Because there are people outside of us that comes in and say, well, maybe you should do this. And because we don't know enough, we say, well, what happened when you don't know enough? You say, well, I guess we can try it. Because we talk about
Right.
the learning by osmosis, right? Well, you know nothing. There's nothing for you to
Yeah.
compare and say, well, this is wrong. But now that if you read the book or you know the law and you kind of simulate through your mind and you think about it, and somebody say, hey, we should do this and should do that, then hey, I can compare this to what other people do in the past and say, well, maybe that's not a good idea. We should not introduce this kind of concept into the ecosystem that we don't want to have, because it's going to give you that. Because when you influence and you don't have any kind of reference to compare against, you will take it as the truth until you proven otherwise.
I mean, you make a good point. I'm not saying I don't think that people should read the book. I mean, like
No. We should read the book.
Yeah.
And
No, I agree. I mean, you should always be learning, right? Like, and sometimes you're gonna learn shit that doesn't align to how you want to live your life, and that's an important lesson. Like, is to,
yes, you learn what not to do.
Right. Yeah. No, I 100% agree. I mean, like, most of life is about learning what you don't want to do. And like probably 99 times out of 100 learn the bad thing, and then the one time you find the right thing, like then you learn to go do that. But it took 99 other times to to learn, because we don't fail fast, we learn fast, right?
And also, like when you learn the thing not to do, when you found the right thing to do, it feels different. And you know, hey, this is on the right path, and I know that I'm on the right path because it feels different. Because otherwise, how would you know the difference?
You're not wrong. I mean, like, to be fair, we could never come up.
So
with,
if I'm not wrong,
like,
what am I?
You're correct. At least in my view, you are aligning with what I would agree with, because to your point,
well, like I say, I agree with you. I agree with you. You have to live for your value. But that's the thing is, how do I do that without people getting in my way? If I'm walking down the street and somebody's in my way, what do? I need to have options. Do I just tell him to go, step aside? Do I go around him? Do I turn around? What do? What are my options? That's my philosophy. I'm not saying, hey, I don't care. I'm just gonna walk through you. I'm gonna walk over that person because I don't care what other people do. To me, I mean, that's where I got stuck, because I need to know what are my options and what I need to decide to do. It's that space between a stimulus and your what was it?
Response
is your free will to act, right? This is where I need my options, because I could walk over him.
That's where I consult the values chart on that. So I said I feel powerful when I get put into a dilemma, and I'm like, well, I know what I'm doing because I'm going to go this way. Like if somebody walks in front of me and they're like, hey, they block my path, and I go, oh, well, I go consult in that space between stimulus and choice is your freedom to choose, right? Stimulus and response is your freedom to choose. Like I consult one law, and that's, does it align with the things that I say that are most important with me? And if it does, then I go forward. If I don't, then I don't do it. So like if I was in a situation to be manipulated, like I don't find that the only way that somebody could ever manipulate me is if they could really understand what's in my head and what really matters to me. And then at that point in time, we would be on the same alignment. Like I would be like, great, manipulate me all day long, as long as it's going toward the thing that I want, I don't care if somebody manipulates me into more toward my purpose of living for two for my daughter. Like I want that, if anything, manipulate the shit out of me.
I don't know. I'm just thinking that, without the option, without reference, doing what you think is right may not be right. And that's the problem. It's like, how do I know this is the right value? We say, hey, I can take an offer from this company because they offer me this and that and the other that's different from Salesforce or whatever. How do I know which one's better? Because I'll compare it to Salesforce, compared to what you want, right? It may work out, may not. But that's the thing, is you don't know until you try it. But the thing is, you have a better chance of making the correct path if you have more thoughts into the actions and more knowing what people have done, right? Because it's not just you, right? When people give you an offer or a job or whatever, right? It's them. You have to know them.
Yeah,
because they cross into your timeline, into your own personal life timeline. You have to know how to act. Like let's say right now, Salesforce is aligned with your core value. What do? You say, oh no, I'm looking at my core value, or do I live for two? Well, the thing is, you can't just say, hey, I'm gonna quit right now and I'm gonna do whatever. I have to transition it. I have to say, well, how do I make sure that my wife is still taken care of, my second kid, my boy Luca isn't taken care of, while I live in for two? So now you say, well, how do I do that? By doing the company, you founded the company, but also trying to work at Salesforce to kind of like make that transition. And that's what you're playing. And yes, that's nothing wrong with doing that, because that is not harming anyone, right?
Yeah, but I'm not playing a game. Like that's not. I'm not playing. I mean, you might say that I am, but I'm not.
But it's a game no matter what. It's just one of those things where you say, well, you have to exist in the world. You're gonna have to play a game, because right now you can't tell your boss that, hey, I'm building a company, so I'm gonna leave. Would you tell her that? Because you have played the game. You say, well, she doesn't need to know.
Maybe. But here's the thing: is it's not a game, though. Like life isn't a game, in my opinion. Like life is either.
It's a game whether you like it or not.
It's either purpose driven or it's not. That's the game.
It's like we said before is, are you on a quest? You're always on a quest. If you exist on this earth, you are on a quest. You're questing for something, right? Regardless of what you know or not, you're on a quest. Regardless of what you want to call it, you can call it a game, you can call it a something, right? You playing something, right? It's not the word play and the word game. It's like, you know, it's you know, I don't know what that is, but you are in this
you're
ecosystem
participating in something.
Exactly. You are a participant in life, right? And you can call it a game or call it whatever you want. I mean, the game and the play, the word, it's something we use, but it's not really that. But
well, games have outcomes, right? I don't think life have outcome. Like, I mean, it's, you know, we don't know what the outcome of our life is. Like,
but like you say, you know, we're participating in something, right? And
yes, we are participating
for me, if you say, hey, that's not a game, that's fine, but it's still calling something. You are participant in one among many participants. Whatever you want to call that,
participating in purpose. We're participating.
No, you're not participating in purpose. Meaning. You know, you're not participating in purpose. The other people are participating, but they don't have a purpose. So what do you call that? It's not participating in purpose. It's you participate in something, right? It's just that you choose your purpose as how you participate. You understand? So for me, it's like
no, I mean, that's a good point. I don't know. I think this is a deeper topic than 48 Laws of Power, but I agree. It's an interesting topic. I think we should explore.
That's the point. Is that, you know, whatever your particular, I guess, lessons and concept you want to retain when you learn, the inspiration can come from anywhere. So, you know, the 48 powers may, you know, kind of like call out this kind of knowing people around you. You have to participate because there's not you know, volunteer.
Yes, I 100% agree with it. Everybody has to participate in life. If you're not participating, you might as well die. Like, and you know,
that's the only way you get out. You're not participating, you die. You have to participate.
Exactly. No, I mean, like, you literally have to. Like, that's the only requirement of life, is you have to participate. Like, otherwise you'll die, because if you don't use it, you lose it, you know. That's anti-fragile, you know,
it's like throwing you into the ocean and say, hey, you know, don't swim. It's like, well, you don't swim, you die. Right, so you gotta swim.
Right, exactly.
So you throw in your lives, you gotta participate.
I am with you 100% on that one for sure. Well, all right, let's let you go back to your family. You're at the beach. I appreciate you jumping on for you know, it's fun. This shows us all what your values are as well as ours, you know, I mean, and the club values. So I appreciate you taking the time to do this with us. But I don't want to take you away from your family any longer. So I'll let you final thoughts, and we'll sign off for the night and get you back to your
right. So final thought is, you know, in order for you to live the value you want to live, you got to make sure you have options so that you know how to handle them when somebody gets in your way. Because if they get in your way, right, it's going to take away your attention from living your core value to deal with the thing. So how do I maximize my own path that has the most of what I want to do, versus I have to deal with all these things that get in my way? Then I only live like maybe 60% of what I want to live, because the further 40, I'm trying to deal with the things is, you know, in the middle of the road when I'm trying to walk across something.
I agree with everything you just said. I would personally rephrase it to say, learn all the things you don't want to do so you can learn the one thing that you do want to do, and then just walk that path, like, you know, and participate like crazy. Like that would be you gotta
participate. Yes.
Yeah.
It's mandatory that you participate.
Yeah, that's a you're right. That is 1% the foundational element of any stuff. But like, and into what you participate is what we're talking about. And I'm saying,
so you participate, but how you participate, that's up to you. That's entirely up to you, and you can control that.
Right, exactly. And I'm saying control that by being really powerful, by following your purpose, your mission, and your values, and you'll never go wrong, in my opinion. Because like, if you're wrong about that, then you're wrong about yourself, and there's a deeper problem there, you know. Like,
but at least you know you're wrong about yourself, right?
That's true. As I said, yeah. That's what I said. There's a deep problem you need to address if that's the point. If that's the case, like if you know that you're doing something you think that you care about, and you find out, shit, I don't really care about this, then that to be addressed, you know.
Then you're halfway there. You're halfway there.
Right.
Say, hey, that's not it. I gotta go find the other half, which is like, hey, Now I know what I should not do, right? Well, whatever I do that's
Right.
not that, it's going to one step closer to the right one.
For sure. Well, that's learning, right? You know,
Yep.
and that's great. No, I love it. All right, awesome, great discussion. Thanks for joining us live from the beachside today.
And
So
I'll be back tomorrow from the beach too. So stay tuned.
Love it. Thanks for the commitment. I love it.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So question we can leave for everybody is how do you shield yourself from outside influencers and stay true to what's important to you? So something to think about. Drop in the comments below, and we will see you all tomorrow.
Sounds good. See ya.